Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, September 20th, 2020. And yes, you did read that title correctly. In one day, the Democratic Party raised $70 million. This was actually yesterday, following the announcement that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had passed away. This is the biggest fundraising day for the Democratic Party in history. So they've broken numerous records, and this $70 million number is nothing to look at and just, assume that this isn't big news for the Democratic Party. What we've seen is that this election is shaping up to be possibly the most expensive election in United States history, with two billionaires practically in the race, Bloomberg and Donald Trump. We're going to be working with a lot of money in this race, and typically you'd expect, the billionaire candidate Donald Trump to be out fundraising, or at least spending his own money in this presidential race. But what we've seen is that we're seeing the Democratic Party do phenomenal. There are fundraising numbers that we have not seen in the past. And if we're looking at the numbers from August, the numbers look very different to what we see today. These this $71 million number, because it's 70.6, so I'm going to round up, on Saturday, makes up a pretty significant portion of the money brought in August. So ActBlue altogether, combined with Joe Biden and other Democrats, brought in roughly $15.7 million a day. Looking at this headline from NPR News, it was, a shattering fundraising record. I mean, this shattered a fundraising record with $364.5 million in August, combined on ActBlue, $485 million. But this $70 million makes roughly 1 in 5 out of that, money raised in August. That is super significant. I mean, the Democratic Party did very well in terms of fundraising, and, that's largely due to the fact that the Democratic Party has had a very rude awakening following Judge Ginsburg's passing, because they realize that now they are going to have to be working with a Republican Senate and a Republican president, and going to see if the court ends up getting filled. If that replacement happens, if the Democratic Party isn't able to block a nomination, what that means for the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party has started to realize that maybe this election actually is super consequential. While probably 90 to 95% of Democrats thought that this election is probably one of the most important ones in their lifetime, if not the most important, now the stakes are even higher, because we're going to be worrying about a number of things happening in the Supreme Court that may be the headline that you hear. When we were talking about, previously talking about the Supreme Court, it was all the same. One conservative justice always moved over in favor of the Democrats, or at least the liberals, in the Supreme Court. And now it looks like the Democratic Party is going to be needing two, because if it ends up being a 6-3 majority of conservative to liberal ideology on the Supreme Court, then it's going to be very difficult for any type of discussion of possibly keeping Roe v. Wade or keeping, LGBT rights nationwide. It may return to the states. Who knows what new precedents will be set by the incoming Supreme Court, assuming that Trump does get this nomination passed. And, there is speculation as to who it's going to be. I think that also attributes to the reason why the Democratic Party is raising a lot of money, because it's Amy Barrett. She's being considered because she was before Kavanaugh was officially chosen, and the Democratic Party viewed her as an even larger threat than Kavanaugh. And, the Democratic Party was really hoping that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was going to be retire under a Biden administration. But now, obviously, the Democratic Party is worrying about whether or not they're going to get, 2 more Republican senators to block a potential nomination from President Trump. So the $70 million in one day is really going to help the Democratic Party, to say the least. What we've seen is that Donald Trump is short on cash. He's been withdrawing his ads in a number of states, saying, I'm going to save up and wait until October. Some people think, maybe he's confident in his ability in some of these states. Maybe he just doesn't want to waste money. Well, we're 43 days until the election, and I honestly don't think any of this money is being wasted. Trump needs to spend it in these battleground states. Otherwise, they don't end up being battleground states. They end up moving into the Joe Biden column. So this $70 million number could have helped the Trump campaign had the GOP raised a similar amount of money. If the GOP was to raise this much money, Trump wouldn't need to withdraw ads from Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Iowa, Ohio. Why? Because he'd have the money to spend. But what we've seen from the Biden campaign is that they have consistently out-fundraised Donald Trump to a point where Donald Trump is considered spending his own money on this presidential election campaign. But now, the money that's being spent on ads is being replenished. looking at the money yesterday, $71 million. The previous record for the Democratic Party altogether, within a 48-period day, or 2 days, was when Kamala Harris was announced as vice president, and that was $48 million. That was the record for this election season. And now, in one day, passing the very unfortunate passing of RBG, we saw the Democratic Party raise $71 million. Think about that number for a second. I mean, we saw roughly $105,000 go up, I believe, during the time period of 9/20 and 11/10. On Friday night, we saw the money on ActBlue go up $105,000 a second. That is super substantial. I mean, we saw the Democratic Party raise numbers that they had never seen before. And, that is super, super significant because when the Democratic Party was raising these numbers, it's very comparable to Obama's fundraising numbers and very comparable to Hillary Clinton's just doing a lot better. And when Hillary Clinton broke fundraising records for that campaign cycle in 2016 by raising $80 million in July or, $90 million the following month, that was big news. Because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party typically raise that amount of money, but also it does matter when one candidate is out fundraising one another. But now we see the Democratic Party doing way better than $80 million a month. Look at that August number. I mean, we're ranging anywhere from $300 million to $500 million. $500 million in a month, upwards of $500 million in a month. If you combine all of the Democratic candidates, maybe the ones that weren't even processed through ActBlue. So what we've seen is that the Democratic Party has done very well in terms of fundraising. And that's something that this electoral map is likely to shift because of it. Because we see Bloomberg now spending $100 million in Florida. And now the Biden ads can be replenished in Arizona. Or if they already had money to spend across the Rust Belt, because they did allocate a number of states in their budget that they release around midsummer, a number of the states from 2016, now they can expand. They can focus more money on Texas or Iowa or Ohio or Georgia or North Carolina, because this $71 million in one day is coming in, I would say, clutch for the Democratic Party. They are getting a lot of the money that they have recently spent on TV ads or pretty much just TV ads or internet ads that they are now going to be able to replenish or push out into other places. And that's the one thing the Trump campaign has been struggling with, because they have been withdrawing ads because they don't have the money for it. They've spent nearly $1 billion on ads, and now it looks like they're going to a completely virtual platform. They're withdrawing TV ads. They haven't spent ad money in certain states since Labor Day. So weeks have gone by since the Trump campaign ran a TV ad. And get this, I mean, yes, internet ads are super important, but if they're not running localized ads, and when they dropped ads during the DNC, that was the first warning sign that the Trump campaign was short on cash. The Democratic Party, they cannot say they were short on cash. The Democratic Party broke fundraising records hour after hour on Friday night. And then Saturday, they raised $71 million. That is super significant. That is super, super significant. Because of the fact that the Democratic Party was able to do that, they are now going to be able to expand their margin in a number of these states. Because it was big news that Bloomberg was spending $100 million in Florida. Well, that's 3 times the size of Arizona. That means the Democratic Party, which already has a pretty strong hold on states like Arizona and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, they could be spending less money and have as large of an effect on the state. So the Democratic Party should be looking at these numbers and be very happy about that, because of the fact that they are fundraising so well means that there's also a very large amount of energy on the Democratic side that was not previously seen. And yes, the Democratic Party has entered into this election with a lot of energy even before Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. But it's a very real reality for a lot of these Democrats that maybe weren't going to vote or voted for Bernie Sanders, that were still iffy as to whether or not they were voting for a Green Party candidate or for Joe Biden. I think the Democratic Party and all liberals across the country are going to coalesce around Joe Biden. Because let's say the Democratic Party is able to get 2 more additional senators to block a Trump confirmation. That puts Joe Biden in the running to potentially replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg and then push away the idea of packing the courts. But I think that the Democratic Party is going to use this and ride it into the election, because with a month and a half away until the 2020 election, the president is considering replacing a nominee. 4 years ago, the Republicans opposed it. And I get it. The Republicans did not have an incumbent president. It probably would have been a different story, but you can't be hypocritical, and the voters will recognize that. When Lindsey Graham says to use my words against me, they absolutely will. And this money that's being sent to the Biden campaign sorry about that, that's being sent to the Biden campaign, and also Senate Democrats. Jamie Harrison broke fundraising records. Numerous Democrats across the country broke fundraising records yesterday, because the Senate is what's going to matter at the end of the day, because these confirmations need to be passed. And these senators are going to be the ones that are either confirming or denying a potential justice on the Supreme Court. And when we're seeing the Democratic Party raise money, and not only on the presidential level, but on the Senate level, there's a very real situation for the Democratic Party that if they lose one of them, they very well could be in trouble for the Supreme Court. Because let's say they do get the Senate, and the Republican Party recognizes that during the lame duck session, they very well could pass a justice onto the Supreme Court. Or let's say the Democratic Party wins the election, wins the presidential election, but loses the Senate. Same thing could happen. So the Democratic Party needs to go in with a very strong mandate, and they also still need to worry about that lame duck session that's still going to be there. They will have Mark Kelley, more likely than not, which means they'll only need 3 votes to block it. But until January 2021, the Democratic Party cannot stop their efforts in blocking a potential Supreme Court justice. Because what they're going to need, if that justice does go through, is they're going to need a strong Senate to court pack. Because there is no way getting around the next couple of decades, because these people that are potentially being nominated and on the Supreme Court are 50, 60 years old, which means for the next couple of decades, they will be on there. It doesn't matter. You know, the oldest justice at this point, I think, is 72 on the Republican side. So those are on the conservative side. Those conservative justices are not going to be out for a very long period of time. So the Democratic Party does have to look to alternative situations. And it does look that if they do end up winning in some of these Senate races where these Senate Democrats are doing very well in terms of fundraising, it is very possible that the Democratic Party does aim to do a court packing situation and try to, push the Supreme Court to possibly 13 seats, 15 seats if they go with Pete Buttigieg's plan. And, it's going to be very tricky for the Democratic Party to maneuver that and try to do well in the midterm elections. But then again, this election is shaping up to be who will replace the Supreme Court. Yes, COVID-19 is going to be an important issue. Yes, the Black Lives Matter movement will definitely be an important issue. But also, the Supreme Court, which already mattered before, matters 100 times more. And the numbers reflect that. The Democratic Party is worried. They're sending their money left and right. $71 million in one day. 14% of their groundbreaking, money spent during the month of August in terms of fundraising. 14% in one day. The Democratic Party is doing good in terms of money. But where they spend it and what happens as a result of the election and this spending money is really what's going to either help or hurt them as they proceed into the new year. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. I am going to be in D.C. tonight paying my respects to Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I will be leaving in roughly 10 minutes. So this video might get uploaded on the road. I'm recording this at 6:24 p.m. Eastern time. I'll take a picture and post it on the community tab. I'll update you guys as to what I see. Honestly, it's probably going to be a very somber area, and I do think that it's important, if you are around the area, to try to safely pay your respects to Justice Ginsburg. But anyways, on the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2020 Senate election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.